Hi, my name's Kilpatrick and I'm a recent graduate from Watt University. I studied design for textiles for the past 4 years and I've specialised in knit. I am currently based in Galashiels in the Scottish borders and I've lived in Scotland for most of my life. I feel really lucky to have studied in such a beautiful place and I've had so much inspiration just on my doorstep. I really enjoy bringing nature into my work and taking inspiration from the different textures and colours found in natural landscapes, so to have access to the countryside whenever I need it is really, really amazing. I definitely gather a lot of inspiration from different places. Like I mentioned, I love to use nature and natural forms and things like that to influence the knitted pieces that I create. Additionally, I find that colour inspiration is definitely found through some of my own photographs, so I'm always looking for things that I can take photos of and then look back at and work into. I love following many different people on social medias and keeping up with their work and seeing what they're able to get up to next. I love following knit artists in particular as there's so much you can do with this craft, and there's so many things that I see people do that I have no clue how they've even managed to do that, and I think that it's really exciting to be able to have a platform such as Instagram or things like that where you are able to share your work, and I think that it's really great as a young designer to see what people are putting out there and maybe like have people you want to look up to in the industry and things like that. So I think it's such an important tool. Some of the people that I love to follow at the moment would be Amber Heard's, Katie Salmon and Helen Kane, also known as the Knit Kid. So I specialise in fashion knitwear, so I'm always keeping up with the latest fashion trends and making sure I'm researching what's current at the moment. And every project that I do, I will find some kind of fashion inspiration that I want to inform my own designs. So, for example, my recent honours collection, I was researching the works of Iris van Herpen as the project had lots of kind of organic forms, and I was really looking at some unusual silhouettes, which I think obviously she captures them using a different material, different mediums and ways than I would, but the kind of structure and the overall concept is something I'm really interested in, so I like to make sure to research different fashion designers as well as knitwear artists. So at the moment I've just graduated from university, so I hope to do a master's. I really feel like I've got another year in me that I would like to do a completely different project and do something a little bit more specialist. So obviously I've just done an undergraduate in design for textiles, so I really would like to do a more fashion focused fashion knitwear course for postgraduate, so that is my plan for what I'd like to do next, but I'm planning on taking a year out, kind of refining my portfolio and hopefully doing some travelling to gather some more inspiration, and yeah, hopefully that'll be the next step that I take for my design career. I think there are definitely a few challenges that you encounter as an artist. I think each one would be different depending on what your kind of style is, your focus and things like that. I think there's definitely different issues that different areas of the industry face. I'd say for me, being a young graduate, so a young designer just at the beginning of my design career, the biggest challenge that I've found personally has been to just put yourself out there and be confident in your work. Obviously, I mentioned how I think that social media is such a good tool to be able to get inspiration and kind of create a community online, but I think there's also so much out there that it's kind of difficult sometimes to yourself, because there's so much amazing work out there that you kind of see things and you maybe doubt yourself, and kind of it maybe gives you a confidence knock that you're kind of on the same level as that. So yeah, I definitely have to say probably the biggest challenge for myself at the moment is just putting yourself out there, not caring what other people think, and just doing what you love and keep doing that. Oh, I think that the advice that I would give to my younger self would just be to keep creating, and just trust that what you're doing is going to work out in a way that you'd want it to. Like, I've always been interested and like had a passion for creating things, whether it's through like art, pottery, knit, kind of things like that. I've always had a real interest for it, but I think it's sometimes difficult to see where you can take that further in the future in terms of career and things like that. So now I see so many different opportunities and kind of how you can start a career in design, but obviously when you're in school, things like that, you're not really sure how it's going to progress. So I would say just keep creating and trust that everything is going to work out as it should. I think perhaps the most I've pushed myself in a project has got to be for my most recent honours collection. So maybe one of the more unconventional mediums that I myself have used would have to have been natural dyeing. So my project focused on fruit and vegetables as the inspiration for it, kind of visual inspiration in terms of colour and texture, and then kind of wanted to highlight how food waste is such an issue in the UK. And one of the ways that I wanted to raise awareness was showing how you can kind of creatively repurpose your food scraps. So I chose to do some natural dyeing to incorporate into my final samples. So I collected kind of coffee grounds, beetroot scrap, cabbage, I think used blueberries, brambles, things like that, and then created dyes from that, which is something I'd never done before. So I'd probably say that's the most unconventional thing I've used as materials yet at the moment. So, and I think the project itself, I wanted to have a very textured kind of 3D approach. So the techniques I was using is not something I'd kind of been familiar with before. So I'd use a lot of partial knits, lots of kind of shaping, things like that, creating kind of these unconventional textures and silhouettes. So I'd say that was something that I really focused on as well, which I hadn't done before. So it definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone and it gave me a new experience as an artist. I always have to have something on in the background when I'm working, whether that's like a podcast, music, just a TV show. Yeah, I definitely have to have something on in the background. Sometimes if things are going wrong or if I've got something I really need to concentrate on, then I will turn it down because I feel like it makes me focus more, which doesn't really make any sense. But yeah. I think that the best reaction someone's had to my work is when they're like, I'm not sure how you've done this, or they're saying, oh, I didn't even realise you could like do this with knit, because honestly that makes me really happy, because I think there is such a stereotype about knitwear and things like that. Obviously it's such a traditional kind of craft, and it's been around for centuries, so there's a lot of kind of ideas about what people have in their mind about what knit should be or what they think it like can be. So a lot of kind of jumpers, just knitting on knitting needles, cables, things like that, very traditional. So to be able to kind of push the boundaries and kind of create work that's showing off knitwear in a more contemporary way is something that's really important to me. So if somebody gets that and kind of understands that can do so much with knit and it's not just confined to what we kind of have traditionally believed that it should be, is really important to me, and that I think is the best reaction that you can have to your work. I think what I would hope people would take away from my work, in particular other designers and creatives, would be to feel inspired after seeing it. I think that's the biggest compliment that you could have as a designer, but also it's so incredible to be part of a community that you help inspire people and you gather inspiration from. So like I mentioned, if someone sees something on Instagram or things like that and they're like, oh, I'd love to try and capture this myself, or see something that might spark an idea of their own, then I think that's really amazing as a designer to have been able to say that you've done that. It's such a collaborative community that I think it's just really important that we continue to get inspiration from each other, and if somebody sees my work and feels inspired to create and continue to create, then I really think that that's amazing. Like just how I've been inspired by other artists and designers that I've seen, if I can then continue that inspiration, spark it for somebody else, then I feel like I'm kind of fulfilling my role within the community in terms of like collaboration and things like that. So that was what I would hope people would be able to take away from my work. Thanks so much for your time.